Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. Today's video, I'm continuing ranking my top 100 favorite albums of all time. And here I'm at number 26 on my list. Number 26 is Led Zeppelin IV from 1971 by the rock legend band Led Zeppelin. So stay tuned to see my thoughts here on Jason the Old Millennial. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well here on a Friday late afternoon, early evening period. And yeah, come again to talk more about music and some of my favorite music and some of my favorite albums of all time, which is changing day by day. So this is a list I made a couple years ago, and it's been taking me like 2 years to get through this list so far. I think I've been doing this for 2 years. I'm almost into my top 25. It does take a little while because I try to do a video sometimes once a week, sometimes it takes 2 weeks to get my video out because I got so many other ideas out there that I'm trying to do. But hopefully I'll finish this year. But this is number 26 on my list. Like I said, I'm getting just almost into my top 25 favorite albums. According to this list, it's definitely changed the next time I make my list again. But this is definitely an album that will make any list. It is definitely one of my favorite all-time albums, and that is Led Zeppelin IV, and I got the vinyl here. Kind of an iconic picture here, this old guy with sticks on his back. I don't know what's going on there, but it's kind of interesting photo there. Interesting that we call it Led Zeppelin IV, but from what I understand, it doesn't really have an official name to the album. As you see, there is no name, there doesn't have the name of the band or the name of the album on the vinyl here. Of course, when you're talking about an album, you need to call it something. So I believe they, called it Led Zeppelin IV just because it's the fourth studio album. And the first three albums were all numbered as well. We had Led Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin II, Led Zeppelin III, and then we get this one. So we just kind of call it Led Zeppelin IV from what I understand is kind of the name. Just like the Beatles album, we call it the White Album, but it's really the Beatles album. That's my understanding of it all, which is kind of interesting. So we just call it Led Zeppelin IV, even though they didn't officially name it, I think, when it came out, interestingly enough. And again, Led Zeppelin, I don't know, they're a little bit lazy at the beginning of naming their albums. I mean, it's pretty common to have your debut album just be a self-titled album of the band. That's pretty common. A lot of bands seem to do that. But then they went Led Zeppelin 2, 3, and 4, and then this one we call it the fourth one. Then after this one, they actually stopped numbering them, and you got stuff like House is the Holy, I know is a big one, or Wish You Were Here, or some big Led Zeppelin. I mean, that's Pink Floyd. I just got off Pink Floyd there. But yeah, but House is Holy, I believe, is a Led Zeppelin album. And so they did start naming their albums actual names anyways, which I like when they name the album something interesting, different. It seems a little lazy when they just put a number behind it. It's interesting because I just covered Queen recently, and Queen did that for the first two albums, Queen and Queen 2, and then they started naming them. So that does seem to happen. Chicago does the same thing. I know they go Chicago, and then they number them 1, 2, 3, 4, and they number like every single one. There's hardly a Chicago album that's not have a number behind it, which I guess helps you know which album it is in the discography. I guess you can go look at it and go, okay, this is further on, this is early on, whatnot. This absolutely, you can tell this is the fourth album because it's called Led Zeppelin IV, which I guess helps just a little bit. But yeah, this album came out in 1971. Of course, Led Zeppelin had some big hits already at this point. And this is, this is my favorite Led Zeppelin album. In fact, this vinyl I got is actually the first vinyl I ever bought. This last year, I decided to start collecting vinyl. And I went to Walmart and I found this at Walmart, which I was happy because I definitely really wanted Led Zeppelin IV at some point. So I was like, all right. It was a good introduction to vinyl. And when I first played this on the record player, I bought at the same time. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I had a blast playing this album and going, man, this is a really good album. In fact, at number 26, I feel like I actually put it a little low. I think if I re-ranked the albums, this would be a lot higher on I say not a lot higher, but it'll be higher probably on my list. Because the more I hear this song, or the more I listen to this album, the more I come away going, man, this is such an amazing rock album. And I'm a fairly big fan of Led Zeppelin. I say I'm not a monster fan yet. At some point, I want to do a deep dive on them and kind of go through all their discography and really, do research on the band and do a top 10 songs and all that. And I maybe learn to more appreciate the band, but definitely up there is one of my favorite rock bands, a top 10, rock band of all time, I think. I always put them up there with The Who, is like this 70s band that just had the best, combination of rock singing, rock guitar playing, rock bass, rock drums. I mean, all four just work together so well, and they're just about the best. I mean, when you're putting up like the best guitar players of all time, Jimmy Page is going to be in that discussion. You're talking about rock singers. I think Robert Plant should be in that discussion. Drummers, Bonham, I think his name is John Bonham. He's in the discussion. He's usually number one when you talk about drummers, him or Keith Moon. Like I said, I feel like Who and them go back and forth between who's the best in their instrument. I mean, that's just how good they are. There's every single instrument they're just absolutely amazing. They're like the best at. And I said, Robert Plant has some of the best rock vocals of all time, and does a really good job on this album. So yeah, this is my favorite Led Zeppelin album. It's the highest on my list, and I think it's the most well-known, I would say, album, or it's usually the highest album on any list of Led Zeppelin. It's probably the most popular. A lot of that is because has the biggest song from their discography, and that is Stairway to Heaven. Is absolute killer song, very popular. Some would say overplayed, but I don't say that. I say it's played enough. I can't get enough of Stairway to Heaven. It's such a good song, and it's what they're really known for. But yeah, so this is definitely, if you want to listen to Led Zeppelin, I like Led Zeppelin 2 as well. That's also been on my list. I talked about in my top 100. In fact, it's also like in my top 50, top 40 or something like that. So both albums are really, really good. It's just a really great album just to listen to. And the band is a great band to listen to, just to hear the guitar riffs and licks and solos. Just the best you'll ever hear in rock music. And it's such a great period, this early 70s. It's so much great rock and roll music coming out. So yeah, if you like rock music, you have to love Led Zeppelin. They just are so good to listen to, and just to kind of listen, just step back and just jam to it. I mean, just enjoy it. So yeah, this is also the band's best-selling album. Like I said, it's the biggest album. It sold 37 million copies, so a lot of that sold. It's number 1 in the UK, number 2 in the US. So I don't know why not number 1 in the US, but it was huge in the UK, especially. Of course, they're English band. As all the great bands seem to be English, Led Zeppelin, The Who, The Beatles, Queen. I don't know what it is with the English are so good at rock and roll music. But yeah, it went 24 times platinum, which is absolutely incredible. You don't see that very often. 24 times platinum. I mean, it's one of the best-selling albums of all time. At the time that it came out, it was in the fifth. It was like it was in the top 5 best-selling album of all time when it came out in 1971. So yeah, it was one of the all-time greats. I'm still sure it's still up there as one of the great-selling albums. On Rolling Stone's 500 best albums, greatest albums of all time, it was number 58. So, which is pretty good when you're talking about 500 albums. It's number 58 out of those albums, so it's pretty high up there. Like I said, it could be even higher. I mean, it's such a great album in whole. The only, I should say, what I found interesting about the research is that, so they did Led Zeppelin 3, but they didn't go on tour right afterwards to, play the songs. Instead, they went right back in the studio after releasing 3, and were working on this album, came out with this album. So 3 and 4 come out, I think, pretty close to each other, is what it sounds like. Because a lot of times you come out with the album, then you do like a year of touring. I don't know, you do a bunch of touring, to play the hits on that album, plus all the other music, to get more sales of that album. And then after you do the touring, then you maybe go back into the studio and work on your next one. But this one, for some reason, they decided they didn't want to go touring after the third one and just went right back. And maybe they just had so many songs they wanted to get out there. And so they went back and worked on this what I would say their masterpiece album, for sure. They had only 2 singles come out of this album. Black Dog, which went number 15 in the US, so that was their best selling single off of here. And then Rock and Roll went number 47. So not the highest singles. Like out of a lot of bands, I usually have higher singles. Led Zeppelin's one of those weird bands where they're so great, they have so many amazing songs, I mean, they have so many great songs that you hear on the radio, and I heard on the radio growing up, listening to oldie stations, and they didn't have one number one hit, which is always like one of those boggles your mind. Like, how did they not have a number one hit with all these amazing songs? That's just one of those weird things that happens. Some of the best don't get recognized as well as they should. And I have to look, but I doubt they probably didn't win like any like Grammys or anything, you know. It was one of those bands where it had a big following, but yeah, not amongst the, you know, critics or whatever, or whoever votes for that kind of stuff, which is interesting. But yeah, so that's most of the research I had on there. And just, I guess, go through what exactly it's on the album. There's only 8 songs on the album, so it's not a lot of songs, really. Kind of interesting. We opened with Black Dog, amazing opener. Led Zeppelin II had a great opener as well. A Whole Lot of Love, which is like one of the best openers I've ever heard. I really get into it. And this one is such amazing because it just starts off with Robert Plant's voice, and I don't know what they do. They do something in the studio with his voice, I think, to make it interesting even. But it's just like him singing a cappella. He hits you with his and he's just going full force rock, high pitch voice that he has. And he hits you with that. And then all of a sudden all the instruments come in, and it's like a little guitar solo in between when he sings. Anyways, and it's just absolutely amazing guitar playing by Jimmy Page. And anyways, yeah, and I'll talk more about the song here, but great the way it opened this. And then Rock and Roll right after that, another really great Led Zeppelin song that was on a lot of albums. Side 1 ends with Stairway to Heaven. Like I said, probably the greatest or most well known. I always think of this as like Queen is to Bohemian Rhapsody, is Led Zeppelin to Stairway to Heaven, is The Who to Won't Get Fooled Again. You know, that's definitely like the big masterpiece song that everybody knows, and it's on everybody's list, and it's always my favorite type of songs. Yeah, so yeah, Stairway to Heaven. I mean, what can you say? Great. And then side 2 opens with Misty Mountain Pop, another really great rock song that I think was played on the radio as well. That was a hit song. Yeah, Going to California, which is his acoustic song. It's the only acoustic song like on the album, but it's really good. Like even when they go to the acoustic, sometimes I'm like, man, this is really good. The acoustic guitar work, and Robert Plant kind of dials it down a little bit in his singing, and it sounds great. Like he has a great tone to his voice, even when he sings kind of a little bit softer and lower. Because he usually sings these like very loud, high pitched like rock lyrics, and they sound absolutely amazing. Robert Plant's such a unique singer. I've never heard anybody else sing like him, and he's just perfect for the band. I mean, every member just is perfect for this kind of music. And then it ends with When the Levee Breaks, which isn't a hit song, but it's definitely a very interesting song. It's a kind of a long jam song. But it's a really good rock song, just as far as how the instruments go. There's not as many singing. I think there's a lot more instrumentation than actual lyrics and singing in it. It's just a song that you just listen to and you just bob your head going, yeah, this is good rock. And I think it's a one that a lot of people like. But yeah, the overall 8 songs, and I would say there's 5 pretty good hits on here. I mean, that's pretty good. Over half of your songs are hit songs that were played on the radio and are considered some of the great songs of all time. So that's why it's got a good ratio of songs, really great songs. And even When the Levee Breaks is a good song. That's not a hit song. So, I mean, I would say 6 out of these 8 are just absolute killer tracks. There's 2 that I'm not as familiar with or as popular or that I like as much, but it doesn't deter from the album. It has a really good, like I said, ratio percentage of good songs on it. That makes it why it makes it like such a great album, I think, in a sense. So some of these albums have so many songs, and it's impossible to have 30 songs and them all be good. That's why double albums are so hard to be good. It's easier if you just have 8 to 10 songs and just give them your killer songs, and I think that makes a better album, in my opinion. All right, so I guess enough about Led Zeppelin IV. I'll go into talking about the album in whole. Now I'll do my top 3 favorite songs from the album, and they're no surprise here. They're big hit songs coming from the album. Like I said, there's like at least 5 really big ones. So I should say Rock and Roll and Misty Mountain Pop didn't make into my top three, but both are really, really good songs. But number three, I'm going with Going to California, which is, like I said, it's one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs that isn't a big rock, heavy guitar song, electric guitar. It's a nice acoustic sound to it. And I really like Robert Plant's vocals in here, as he does a little more softer vocals than he normally does, and a little bit lower registered, I would say, but has such a great, nice tone to it, and has a nice melody. And it's just a really lovely, lovely song, Going to California, which the more I'm like, it's funny when I go to this, I've gone through so many albums, and I just keep thinking, man, there's so many songs about California. I don't know if just people really loved California in the music business. I think that's a big, hub for a lot of musicians, because you got this song, Going to California, on Joni Mitchell's Blue album. He had the song California, I believe it was called, talking about how much he loves California. Of course, you got the Beach Boys singing about, I wish that I could be California girls. The Mamas and Papas, dreaming of California. And I think there's some other cases, but I just feel like I'm constantly hearing songs about California. That's got to be the most popular state to sing about. I wonder if California is the state that's most sung about out of any state that we have. 'Cause I just have a feeling like everybody just loves talking about California. And I've never been to California. I got one friend in California, Briar from Briar's Music Showcase. So I'm sure he relates to all these California songs. I was like, yeah, California's great. I don't know. Maybe it'd be fun to visit one day. I'll never know. It's a little out there because I'm in Kansas, so I'm a little bit in the middle of the United States. So it's going to take several days to get over there. But seems like I need to go according to all of these songs. Anyway, so yeah, number three, Going to California. Number two, I have Black Dog, the opener, one of my favorite rock songs. Like I said, I absolutely love how it's such a unique style of Robert Plant singing, incredible lyrics, or credible vocals. And it's like none of the instruments are playing. It's just him singing a cappella. And then after he's done singing, then the guitar and everything comes in. The guitar, I just love how it comes in with the. It's like, oh my gosh, like this amazing, like almost mini solo. And then it stops. And then Robert Plant goes back and sings again. And then he ends, and then the instruments come back in for most of the song, which is, I've never heard a song do that before. To go back and forth between the vocals and the instruments. And it's amazing. It plays so well because of how great the instrumentation is on the song, and mixed in with Robert Plant's vocals is definitely a highlight of any Led Zeppelin album. And all three of these songs are like probably be my top 10 favorite Led Zeppelin songs. That's why this album's so good, because these are some of the best Led Zeppelin songs I think ever created. Number one, no surprise, like I said, it's got to be Stairway to Heaven, one of my favorite songs of all time. Kind of funny thing about the song is it's funny because I talked about this when I talked about Queen. I discovered some of this stuff through Wayne's World. Wayne's World was a really big movie about rock music, because it's a comedy where they're in Chicago in like the 80s, I guess, or 90s. I guess 90s. They're probably in the 90s in Chicago, Aurora, Chicago. And they're really into, Wayne and Garth are really, into heavy rock music is their thing. And he, of course, he likes to play guitar, and Garth plays drums. And anyways, and like I said, I first heard Bohemian Rhapsody through Wayne's World. Also, the first time I ever heard the name Stairway to Heaven was in Wayne's World. So Wayne's World introduced me to both Bohemian Rhapsody and Stairway to Heaven, in a sense, because there's a part where there's a guitar that he really wants. It's really nice, like I want to say it's like a Fender Stratocaster or something that's in this music shop. And, he says, oh, it will be mine. Yes, it will be mine. He has this whole thing. And he goes in there one time to just play with it, just to get the feel of the guitar. And he gets it, and he starts playing Stairway to Heaven, I guess, part of it. And the guitar shop owner stops him and then points over to a sign. And there's a sign in the music shop that says, no stairway to heaven. And Wayne says, no stairway, denied. And when I was a kid, I laughed at that. not knowing that there's a song called Stairway to Heaven, or I have no idea what that song is or who Led Zeppelin is at the time. And so I just thought it was I don't know why, I thought it was a funny thing that he said, because I'm like, oh, no stairway, that's funny. Because I don't think there's a stairway to heaven. You just kind of go straight up to heaven when you die. I thought that was just a reference to heaven or something, but no, it's a reference to an actual song, Stairway to Heaven. I think my dad had to tell me, like, because I think, oh, that was funny, and I think my dad had to say, no, there's a song called Stairway to Heaven. I'm like, oh, there is? Like, I had no idea. And he's like, yeah, it's actually a really good song. And I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of had this hype about Stairway to Heaven before I ever heard it. And I was like, I heard this song called Stairway to Heaven is really good. I need to listen to sometime. And again, this is before YouTube or Google or Spotify or iTunes even. So I had no way of listening to it except to hear it on the radio. And I remember listening to the radio one time, and all of a sudden Stairway to Heaven came on, and I was like, what is this song? This song's amazing. And then when he says, buying a stairway to heaven, I was like, wait a minute, is this the Stairway to Heaven song I've been hearing about that I saw in Wayne's World? And I heard it, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. I'm like, okay, this song is just as good as advertised. This is an absolutely amazing song. And I had to go to my dad and go, I heard the song, I think it was Stairway to Heaven. I'm pretty sure, because I said this, the name in the song, and I thought it was amazing. Yeah, and so since then, of course, it's always been up there. And today, yeah, I mean, I just love how it starts with that acoustic guitar. Absolutely amazing. It's like this really great guitar ballad thing. Rob Plant's vocals, of course, amazing. And then it switches into this, I mean, the guitar part just changes throughout, It's this more of a picking song, dun, 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 whatever, and then dun, 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 whatever. And it goes kind of into more of a strumming pattern. And then all of a sudden we get into the electric guitar, it kicks in, and all of a sudden it's this amazing rock song, and Rob Plant singing these rock vocals. It has one of the best guitar solos, of course, ever in there. And it's just like, it's just a journey of a song. You hear it and you're just like, wow, how it took me all the way from this cool acoustic, amazing melody song to all of a sudden being one of the greatest rock songs of all time. And then ending back on, kind of like reminds me of Bohemian Rhapsody, kind of does the same thing. And then just comes back to the more acoustic ballad as he ends it, and then ends with that. Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. And still today, one of my favorite songs of all time. So obviously, favorite song on here, no surprise there. Cliched answer, but I can't deny how great the song is, and it'll always be one of my favorites. So yeah, Stairway to Heaven, #1. And I got here Led Zeppelin IV, number 26 on my top 100 favorite albums list. So please comment, what do you think about this album? Where is it on your list? Is it higher, maybe? Or if you've never heard of this album. Love to read the comments anyways, what your thoughts are on Led Zeppelin. And I thank you to everybody watching the video. Thank you for liking it. And thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a good day.